Today's presentation is on women and girls with disabilities. Disability covers a multitude of conditions ranging from sensory impairment, physical impairment, psychiatric impairment to cognitive impairment. In recent years, mental disorder is now considered disability, such as neurocognitive disorders, schizophrenia, or intellectual disorder. In Australia, women with disabilities are one of the most marginalized groups. In the current climate of the pandemic, the virus and the associated restrictions, isolation measures, and government policies have resulted in a range of emerging issues for people with disability. In the past, women with disabilities were often locked away in institutions or legally denied basic human rights such as marriage or childbearing, but now it has changed considerably over the years. Women with disability could be the fulcrum of women's rights movement, promoting human rights and ending discrimination and violence on the basis of disability and gender. Australian government introduced the invalid pension in 1908, which increased the independence of people with disability and acknowledged them as members of the society. After World War I and II, government-funded Commonwealth Rehabilitation Service was founded for returning soldiers with disability. 1981 was the Women and International Year of Disabled Persons, and it was the turning point in the history of Australian and international disability rights movement. Disability rights advocacy was recognized as a program area to be funded under the Disability Service Act 1986, and since then, disability activism and advocacy began in Australia. In 2008, the adaptation and rectification by Australian government of United Nations Convention for the Right of Persons with Disabilities is the most recent major advancement of international disability rights movement in Australia. The formation of NDIS is a big step in empowering people with disability. Discrimination is the biggest issue facing women with disability. It can be direct, indirect discrimination arising from disability or gender, harassment or victimization. And disabled women are experiencing sexual victimization 4 to 10 times higher than non-disabled women. Disabled women are 40 times more vulnerable to be victim of domestic violence, injury or abuse, neglect, malnutrition, or exploitation due to issues of power and control. Higher education continues to be a challenge for women with disabilities. They have difficulty physically accessing healthcare services, and women with mental disabilities are practically vulnerable. Women with disabilities are more likely to experience insecure housing and are facing significant barrier in accessing adequate housing and are more likely to be homeless. They have a significantly lower labor force participation rate than men with disability. Discrimination based on gender and disability is a significant barrier to get employment.
I'm going to discuss the activism part that has taken place in order to empower disabled women in Australia. As we have discussed earlier, people with disabilities form the largest minority in Australia and are amongst the nation's most disadvantaged people. This is mostly the case as there are stigmas, discriminations, attitudinal and environmental barriers present in the society that we live in has viewed disabled individuals with a lens of a deficit. Although with changing time, disability rights became prominent, yet it was badly in need of a gender perspective. The intersection of gender and disability has been core to the lived experience of the doubly disadvantaged women. Women with disability, when compared with men with disabilities, were more likely to be poorly educated, unemployed, in institutional care, and without access to adequate rehabilitation and health services. Therefore, in order to improve the standard of living for the disabled women in Australia, many women came together and took up leadership roles in the struggle for disability rights in Australia. Women leaders like Tilly Ashton in the late 19th century founded the Victorian Association of Braille Writers and later established the Association for the Advancement of the Blind, now popularly known as Vision Australia. Elizabeth Hastings, who was appointed Australia's first Disability Discrimination Commissioner, was a prominent disability leader of her times. The most recent, Kelly Vincent, in 2010 became the youngest woman first person with a disability elected to the South Australian Parliament. The leadership of these women with disabilities in disability activism and beyond has been active in order to eliminate discrimination among Australian people with disabilities, especially women. Margaret Cooper, another founder and inaugural member of Women with Disability organizations, has been a leading light in the disability rights movement in Australia. She was a strong leader leading women with disabilities from around the globe who were determined to bring attention to the special needs of women with disabilities and highlighting the inadequacies of both the disability rights and the feminist movement responses to their needs. Her story and that of the disability rights movement in Australia are inextricably linked. She was a strong believer in the need to provide a range of opportunities for women and girls with disability to develop their skills, confidence, agency, and autonomy. She and many other contemporary leaders continually advocated for the right of women with disability to fully participate in all aspects of civil, political, economic, and social and cultural life, and to have the freedom to make decisions for themselves about issues that affect their lives. The struggle of the disabled women fighting for their rights is still ongoing. However, empowerment of disabled women is seen to be exercised as a result of the multiple disability right movement taken place over the years.
People with disabilities face many obstacles in their struggle for equality. Although men and women with disabilities are subject to discrimination because of their disabilities, women with disabilities are at a further disadvantage because of the combined discrimination based on gender and discrimination based on disability. Almost all research on people with disabilities has assumed the irrelevance of gender as well as other social dimensions such as social class, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. Having a disability presumably eclipses these dimensions of social experience. The disability rights movement has also ignored issues of importance to women, and many feminists with disabilities have complained about its male domination and male orientation. Feminism advocates for women's rights and equality. This philosophy questions why women have been excluded, and this includes women with disability. There are various factors that affect women with disability, such as disability type, race, sexual orientation, and class, that will make differences in the experiences. The three elements that have a significant role in understanding the lives of women are gender roles, self image, and sexuality. Women with disability are often discriminated and stereotyped with regards to their sexuality. The society sees them as asexual. This makes women with disability socially disadvantaged compared to any other women. Sterilization is performed to prevent pregnancies without the consent of women with disabilities. It is imposed with the idea that women with disabilities are incapable of parenting. The emphasis of anti-oppressive theory is to equalize power imbalances and mitigate the effects of oppression that exist in the fabric of our society. Critical analysis of the issues of power imbalances across various dimensions, such as on structural and personal level, highlights the oppression that women with disabilities face. This theory also involves analyzing the oppressive nature of organizational culture and its impact on practice. Practitioners being reflexive and reflecting on their own practice. The policies and practices in the field have not been designed to meet the specific needs of women with disabilities. They have been designed considering people with disabilities in mind. The systematic discrimination throughout many decades has created a void where the needs of women are not recognized by the different branches of the government. Major programs designed to assist people with disabilities, such as supplemental security income, disability insurance, workers' compensation, and vocalization rehabilitation, disadvantage women because of their relationship to labor market participation. Women receive fewer benefits than men. They also receive lower benefits. The programs do not protect women with disabilities from the economic threats associated with disability to the same extent they protect men.
In Australia, there are lots of disability services for disabled women. One of the organization is Women with Disability Australia, which is run for women and girls living with disability, and the aim of this organization is to improve basic rights, safety, and provide them good quality of life. In disability centers, government provides them social workers with allied health professionals, qualified nurses and counselors, personal carers and therapy services to take care of them. More safety services should be provided to the disabled women as they are more vulnerable to sexual harassment and domestic violence. We need to make sure that these services should be easily accessible by them. We should employ more women with disability and treat them with respect. We should promote social inclusion in school, provide more scholarship to women disabled athletes, should provide more educational opportunities to them. As a future social worker, I will be more generous and transparent with my clients.
Social work profession works between women and their social, cultural, physical, natural environments through casework, assessments, counseling, family work, advocacy, research, policy, and community work. Social workers operate from a client's perspective, providing intervention that addresses issues at both personal and social level. They work collaboratively to support women to achieve the lives they want and work alongside women with disability to advocate for their rights and facilitate their empowerment and their family with their families and achieve their needs and aspirations in life.